bit more culture.
Yep. We've got that sorted. It's good. Okay, welcome everyone. So I need to advise all that we don't have a chair today. Lee has put in her apologies, and as we don't have a deputy chair for this committee, members present must elect a member to act as chairperson for this meeting. That person can then undertake meeting responsibilities, duties and powers of the chairperson. I would like to call for nominations for the position for chair for today's meeting.
I nominate the mayor.
Is the mayor part of the quorum?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. He's a member of the
He's a member of the
Do I have a seconder? Currently.
No.
Nobody said.
We haven't actually asked for any further nominations.
I just said a call for nominations.
I nominate Ross Vickery.
Do I have a seconder?
So we have no seconders.
Do I have a
for
seconder?
either
I'll second Ross.
Lapsed for the want of a seconder.
Are there any further nominations? Good, okay, if there's only one nomination, then we will have a vote.
No.
Is that right? Nomination, they will have to, yes. Is that right?
Who got the nomination?
If there's only one nomination, declare the person the chair. I declare Ross Vickery the
Sorry, Ross.
chairperson for today's financial audit and risk. Without further ado, I pass over instructions.
Right.
Ross,
Good meetings, a
you might
good
want to
meeting.
move.
So you might want to move the camera if she can't see you.
Oh, I see.
It's better.
Still have a slight difficulty. Yes,
Oh.
right.
Right, maybe we'll just move.
No. I'll be round in the two shakes of a woolly lamb's tail.
Very
No,
appropriate.
stay there, Ross. I'll move the camera.
No. Be sure?
It's only a little bit, but it's not
Okay.
catching you by, so.
I thought that was positive.
As long as the fourth estate present do not report the fracas and disarray that ensues.
Oh, you must be on screen, Ross.
Okay, there we go. All right. This meeting will be recorded and subject to the recording being of suitable quality will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel via a link on the Council's website. Emergency exits are to the rear of this room and the entrance you came in. If we need to evacuate the building, assemble by the playground. Please remain in the assembly area until the building has been confirmed. We have been advised that the Chief Executive has asked that agenda item C3, review of risk register, is withdrawn. Officers have been reworking the operational risk register, however, it requires more discussion and fine-tuning. Do we have any apologies?
I have an apology from Brian Gibson.
Councillor Gibson and Councillor Hay. Are there any other apologies? Do I have a mover that the apologies be accepted? Thank you, Councillor West. Thank you. Seconded by the Mayor. All those in favour? That's carried. Any conflicts of interest to declare in respect of the agenda before us today? Moving on, there are no public participants, hence there are no actions arising. Is there any extraordinary business arising? Okay, moving on to item A6, minutes for confirmation. We're looking at the minutes from 24 June 2020. Are there any corrections that are noted? If not, do I have a mover that the minutes of the Finance Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on 24 June 2020 are a true and correct record? Thank you, Councillor Clenso. Thank you, Councillor Eames. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. We have no notices of motion. Moving on to decision report B1, customer satisfaction survey report. We have a mover to receive the report. Councillor West, and seconded Councillor Clenso. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? That's carried. Now we have a recommendation. It's a straightforward report. Do we have any questions of any of the officers? Councillor Clenso.
Through you, Ross, could I ask Katrina, when we were doing the annual plan, we noted in there for the Audit New Zealand that we would be conducting the survey prior to the 31st of December. How does that affect our Audit New Zealand?
It doesn't, because we still won't be able to report for the annual report. But it's not going to affect audit because we still will have done the survey in time to inform the long-term plan and include it in the long-term plan. Yeah, so I don't see any issues with that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Westley.
Through you, Mr. Chair. When will the South Wairarapa org chart be updated? To include the size of
I will have to, I haven't checked that, I have sent a request, so I will have to follow that up.
Oh,
again.
can we have a time frame that we could possibly have that done by?
I will speak to HR today and hopefully they can get that done by early next week. Yeah, okay. Talk to Michelle about that.
Okay, Your Worship.
Just one question. So we will be looking at the KPIs to be included in the survey. As part of this, we'll be tendering this work out from a methodology perspective, as opposed to just going with NBR again once we change the KPIs, or?
Yes, I believe so. We certainly won't be just looking at NBR to conduct this. It will go out to a wider number of people to.
Thank you.
To put on their proposals. Yeah.
Very good.
All right, if there's no further questions, we've got a recommendation before us to recommend to Council to defer conducting the customer satisfaction survey until early 2021. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Clenso, seconded His Worship the Mayor. All those in favour?
Aye.
And that's carried. Moving on to C1 financial report. Do I have a mover to receive the report? Councillor Evans. And a seconder. The Mayor. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. An information report which we will take as read, but are there any questions from members of this committee on the items contained in the report to be directed to the ever efficient and knowledgeable Mrs. Neems?
Katrina, to you, Mr. Chair. Are you saying, in your opinion, is this sort of predictable or what you expected with regards to rates, arrears prior to COVID? Can we walk into it?
Yeah,
is this better or worse, or what's your feeling on it?
I think it's a little worse. It's not worse than what I expected. It's worse than last year.
Yeah.
Not so much from the amount overdue point of view, but as you can see, the numbers of one of the really good measures of how we're tracking is whether people are keeping up with their rates, obviously. So if they're carrying anything over to the next year is a pretty good indicator that there's some financial hardship there. So those numbers overall have gone down. However, the urban properties have gone up, which is probably the most concerning thing for me, because we would expect rural to go, well, to at least be stable or go down, because the rural economy hasn't been overly affected by COVID. So we are monitoring it really closely, and I think it's a little early to sort of tell. We've started sending out reminder letters, and we're going to be looking at other ways that we can contact the people that aren't actively in contact with us or on direct debit plans, so that we can, the numbers aren't huge that have gone up, but we're certainly keeping a close watch on them.
I mean, certainly when I compare, we're having a chat with Upper Hutt and a number of the other councils, and these are still very low as a percentage, and even lower as a dollar value, of course, with the number of rateable properties we have. But it seems like even though there are big numbers with a 49% increase in rural, it's still kind of tiny in the reality.
It is, yes it is, but so we've always come off quite a low base, so we're quite lucky, and we were I think with the decision that the council has made about the sort of the financial options that we were going to give people, and we were going to apply arrears still, and we were going to apply penalties, but we were going to try and manage that internally. I think that's been very helpful because people have continued to pay their rates, and as a whole, people have contacted us.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and to Katrina, I think it's a bit too early to tell because we're living in a false economy.
Yes, agreed.
With subsidies current subsidies going on at the moment. So the numbers won't actually hit us until next year.
Totally agree with you. And that's why we're just monitoring it and seeing if we can sort of keep it under control and keep communicating with people at the moment. But I do agree. We are in a false economy and we're not in a recession yet, simply because the government is still propping us up. Yeah.
Katrina, the first instalment is actually due today.
It is indeed.
Yes. So is that why a lot of these are showing as being unpaid?
The ones that are unpaid here are from last year, so the rates that haven't been paid are from last year's rates.
Can I just ask the question of rebates, the 381, is that comparative to last year? Where does that sit?
Yeah, no, it is. We've had a lot of people come in. You know, it's always a really busy time for rebates actually, but we've put the message out there, and then we've had a lot more inquiry. But I think the numbers are still relatively similar to previous years.
There's been no great rush.
No, not really, because there's only a certain amount of people that are actually eligible. It's just getting that message out to all the people that are eligible.
Are you confident that that message has gone out appropriately, or is there more confidence?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, John?
So everyone that received a rebate in the previous year was automatically sent a form this year.
Right.
You also have to consider the fact that the rebates are based on the tax year just gone. A lot of people were having income difficult or had a good income year in the last tax
Up to the
year.
31st of March.
So they won't be eligible for the rebate until next year.
For next year. So we could be looking at something next year.
Yes. So although they inquired about it, they weren't eligible because of.
Was that a flaw in our system in as much as we were recognising that there was 3 months of bad income on top of good?
No, it's a DIA. It's driven by DIA,
Okay, right.
and so it's actually a DIA initiative.
Right. Good.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Katrina, do you think with the economic situation predicted, do you think DIA will look at the figures, the limits on those figures for the next year?
Pam, I really have no opinion on that because I don't know. They certainly haven't put anything out to us to
The
indicate
rates
that.
rebate bill only passed last week, so if they didn't change it
They didn't change it
before
then.
that, then they obviously weren't considering it urgent enough to change it in the bill that just passed.
Okay.
All right, well, we've received the report. We have grilled the authors. There's no further action items here. Any, Trina, do you wish to point out to us?
I think the one thing that I just want to make sure that you're aware of is about Audit New Zealand, and that they have pushed the date for local authorities to file their annual report out to the 31st of December. So the auditors have already pushed our audit out by a week, and it's a little bit of a moving target, so it's just a little bit something to have a heads up about, is that although the auditors don't see it probably now as a great urgency to get everything done by the 31st of October, as a finance team, that's still what we're working towards trying to achieve. It will be dependent on the auditors because we're kind of quite a way down the track in terms of in the line. We are often the ones that are pushed out because we're at the end of the line. So it could be that our auditors actually push it out further. But yeah, it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah. But just an update. The rates rebate statute declarations. So the Rates Rebate Statute Declarations Act was enacted 6th of August 2020. The Act amends the rates rebate, blah, blah, blah. What it means in practice is the current forms for the statutory declarations are valid and continue to be used through the rating year. Applicants continue to apply using those forms, and the council can take the statutory declarations either in person subject to alert level restrictions or remotely in accordance with the modification order. There will be a new form which doesn't require statutory declaration available soon, and both application methods, statutory declarations and new form will be valid throughout the racing year. It came out about 2 days ago.
No change to
Yeah, so there's no change.
If we could note for the public, that was Harry Wilson, CEO. You weren't on the camera.
No. That's all right. I'm happy about that.
Actually,
Yeah.
on talking about Audit New Zealand, did I see an email coming where they've increased their rates?
Indeed, yes,
Could
that
you-
came
could
through
you-
just the other day.
Could you explain that? Because that's quite discouraging.
So Audit New Zealand are increasing year on year our audit fees by 2.5%. Yeah, that's essentially.
But that accumulated, isn't that retrospective? And they also, so as a result, it's a 7.5% increase this year?
Well, no, I don't think so. That's not how I read it. I read it as 2.5% each year.
Right.
Yeah.
Cumulatively over 3 years, it adds up to 7.5%.
Through Local Government New Zealand and the mayoral forums that have been occurring, there has been a certain amount of discontent with Audit New Zealand and their inability to use other auditors, and also the continuing increase in and the lack of experienced staff that they're sending out to councils to take these audits. Would you have a comment on that?
Yes, so definitely Audit New Zealand has a monopoly at the moment, and I think it would be good to see another organisation come into the mix, although it wouldn't be anything apart from the top four, so it would be your PwCs and your in terms of, they do often send graduates, because by their very nature, that is where they cut their teeth and do all the legwork. But in our experience over the years, certainly this is only my second audit, but even the comments that Jenny's made is that we've always had a really good relationship with our auditors, and they've always, we felt, given us a good service. So we don't see an issue with the service that they're providing, but it's always good to have someone else in the market.
So even though it's $108,000 per year, we're still getting good value for money?
Well,
Could I answer that? This is not, I mean, remember, an audit is not a value for money
no,
discussion.
no.
And it may appear, it's when you get in the situation where you have a qualified audit or you're in trouble, that's when you really appreciate it. You know, so it may seem a lot of money, but the main role is it provides a public assurance from a reputable body about the way the council manages its finances and its statements of performance. So, you know, the assurance, external assurance, I think, is where we'll go to council.
Aren't you obliged to go to Audit New Zealand?
We are at the moment, yes.
Yes.
All right. Are there any further questions? Okay, then we've received the report. We've discussed it, and we'll move on now to the last item, C2, action items report. Do I have a move to receive the report? Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Seconder. Councillor Clenzo, all those in favour? And that's carried, even though I heard nobody speak. I felt your approval. Okay, we've got a few open items here. Do we have any discussion or questions on that, on those?
Sorry, action items.
Action items.
Could I possibly raise one that's not in the action items, but was a part of the previous minutes, which was regarding vehicle replacement, and just have a look at how that's going. If you remember from our discussion last time, it was regarding replacement of petrol or diesel vehicles with hybrids.
Yep. So Harry has approved the purchase of 4 hybrid vehicles, and I'm pretty sure that they've been ordered.
So they were ready to go to be ordered on Monday. Unfortunately, our HR manager has been ill, so hasn't been able to actually press the button on them.
Yeah, but it's
But they're all ready.
that it's
It'll happen as soon as she gets back.
So we can make
Hyundai from top of my head, I think.
So we remember we're using the government purchasing system, so we're getting an amazing discount on purchase of these vehicles. But the main thing is they're hybrids, so in line with our climate change objectives, means that we're modernising our fleet with far more efficient vehicles. So it's a great outcome in terms of
Very
safety.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and Katrina and Serge and Harry. Does it need to go through a committee to approve that? Is really?
No, it's not a committee. It was a decision that Harry's made, and it was part of the annual plan. We built that budget into the annual plan, so yeah.
Can I ask the cost?
So our budget was 140,000, I believe 20. Harry?
There's about, it'll be 2/3 of the retail price of the vehicle, approximately.
Yeah, it came in under budget.
I think we have an ageing fleet as well, which is very positive.
How big is the fleet?
10, 15?
15 vehicles. So from a workplace safety perspective, our fleet is old, its safety ratings are low, which is not a good thing. We've improved the current fleet by using an Argus system to manage a whole lot of things like the risk of lone working, because a lot of people are travelling distances by themselves. So we've installed some features into the vehicle that weren't in the vehicles to make sure that we're looking after our drivers. And we're progressively replacing our fleet. They're old, mostly Suzuki Vitaras manuals that were purchased second-hand.
And terrible fuel cost.
Yeah, terrible fuel. So the two things when you're looking at replacing your fleet, obviously price is one of those, but the most important is the safety rating. So in all of the vehicles we've purchased are what they call ANCAP 5-star vehicles. ANCAP is an Australia, New Zealand independent body, most of you on board, that actually crash tests vehicles in a laboratory setting to test the crash worthiness of that vehicle and then provides a star rating. So a 5-star vehicle is the safest vehicle you can purchase, so we're making sure all our new purchases are 5-star. And the second thing, equally important, is the energy rating.
Yeah, sure.
So the energy use. Two SUV, I think, and two, well, there may be vehicles, and two are, like runabouts, kind of thing. The iconic, something like that.
And just out of interest, Terry, does that cover the business of the council, 16 vehicles? Is there much private mileage paid out?
Not much.
Just beer, really.
Just that much.
We sort of we allocate cars to teams, so there's only very few that are actually used when championship pull. So our rating manager, obviously, because the kilometres he has, building inspectors, so we allocate our amenities, we allocate the fleet, so that they're available to the parts of the organisation that use them the most.
So how will we dispose of the existing vehicles, Harry, when we
Shoot them if they need mercy killing.
Can we put out?
No, that's part of it, and that factors into the budget.
It's factored
So
into the-
anything you return back goes in to offset the cost of the vehicles. We don't get much for those. Actually, surprisingly, we get a little bit more than I thought we would.
Yep.
About 10,000 for Vitara.
Right.
We'll see.
Okay. The action items mostly push forward to the LTP, but 245, the first one, was for review at this meeting. Katrina, do we need to push that out further?
Sorry.
The
You're
reserve
right.
funds policy.
Yeah, that's a new policy that we need to review the reserves policy. I do need to pull that out, Chair, and I push that out, sorry. And I will look at getting something to you next meeting for that.
That's lovely, thank you. Any other questions or points to be raised around the action report?
Do we have an update on 248 Ronnie Glen landfill?
No. We don't have a date. It's an ongoing discussion that Ewan's trying to find out more information about, because the main contract is led by Masterton. So we're just trying to find out more details still at the moment, trying to flesh it out.
That'll slot into the LTP as well, because
Yes.
it's aggressive moves from the Ministry of the Environment on tonnage per dumping fees, which may tip what we're doing into a totally different direction.
All right then, well, that's been chewed over. There are no notices of motion, there are no extraordinary items. Unless anybody wishes to embark upon a wise soliloquy, I shall declare the meeting. You're a Durry Chief Executive.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a
you.
question, but it's the section areas about legislation. It's a safe.
I ran out of things to say.